Namaste to all of you. Welcome to today's class on Drg Drsya Viveka. Couple of things. Let us start with a small prayer and then we will do a couple of other things. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I think what I'd like to do today is to go over a segment on doing meditation. As I mentioned to you last week, there were three things that I had mentioned towards the end of the class. One was meditation, which I will go over in a minute. The other one was some quizzes. And the third thing was a suggestion that you should also teach to some other people. So I got a email from someone who said, what is this quiz all about? Is this a course that you are formally conducting, and will it mean anything? There was a hint of some concern that this is getting too structured. And no, I didn't mean to create that kind of a doubt. The quizzes is really just meant for your own understanding. We tried it in the first introduction to Vedanta last year, and people seemed to be okay with it, and some people even liked it. So this will be purely voluntary, and then if you don't want to do it, it's up to you. Now, regarding the course on, regarding the teaching, there was one person who was really interested in doing so and wanted to find out whether I'm going to talk about it more. And my suggestion was to wait until the end of the course, but I think he wanted to see if that could be done even prior to it, and that's perfectly okay. If you feel comfortable, then you can actually just follow the outline as we go along, perhaps a few weeks later, so that you have the benefit of some information, and then you can actually start teaching as well. So that's purely volunteer as well, optional as well. Now let's go to meditation. You know, what I would like to do is to do meditations very regularly. And in fact, I think whenever we have a major topic which has been completed, because there are several topics as part of this text. So as a major topic is completed, then I think it'll be good to do a meditation on that topic. And then wait for another few steps for the next topic to finish, and then do a meditation on that as well. So I intend to do so. And I mentioned last week that on days that when we do meditation, then it's very possible that we may extend the class by about 10-15 minutes so that we have some time for teaching as well. So with that in view, what I'd like to do is to start the introduction to meditation even today. And many of you are already familiar with this, those of you that have taken this introduction to Vedanta class, and other students that have been with me for a while. So the way we look at meditation, or dhyanam as it is called, nididhyasanam is another word for that, is that it is in two stages, two segments, if you may. One is preparing for meditation. and the other one is actually doing meditation. Now, in doing meditation, in the Vedantic meditation, we meditate on the subject matter that has already been taught, has already been covered in the classes. So it is not a general meditation. It is a very specific meditation to bring to my experience what seems to be somewhat of a theoretical nature. It's not theoretical in that sense, but anyway, it's an introduction to some new concepts. And when that introduction is complete, then I bring it to my mind in a very focused manner so I can gain some experience of that concept. So this is what we would call real meditation. But the other part of that is preparation for meditation. And the preparation for meditation, which is what we will do today, we will just do the preparation for meditation, not the actual meditation, because we have not covered many concepts yet. The preparation for meditation is not unique to Vedanta. The Vedantic meditation is unique to Vedanta, but not the preparation. So, for example, many of you may already have been meditating, and you have some good ways for you to meditate on. I think you should continue with that. But I think what we will do today is what has been successful for us. This has been taught by our acharyas, our gurus, and we use that for our own preparation, in my teaching as well. So we will do that, and I don't know, it might take 15, 20, 25 minutes. So let us start on the first stage of meditation, which is just the preparation, not the actual meditation. So kindly just follow my lead on this, and then after that we will begin the teaching of the class itself. Okay. The first step in the preparation for meditation is to find a place which is relatively quiet. In all these steps of meditation, please consider we are not looking at absolute factors, but just relative factors. It doesn't have to be totally quiet, but relatively quiet. So choose a place at a time when there is minimum disturbance, and also to do this at perhaps the same time every day, or as often as you can. It doesn't have to be every day. So the first step in the meditation, after you choose a place, is what we call sankalpa. That's the Sanskrit word used is called sankalpa. Sankalpa means it can have a couple of meanings. One is a promise to yourself. Another meaning, and these are all similar meanings, is a resolution. And the nature of the sankalpa, not the name, is important. The nature of the sankalpa is the following. As you take your seat, just mentally tell yourself, which is addressing your own mind, your own way of thinking. Addressing that mind, give certain instructions to the mind, a promise to the mind, a resolution to the mind, as follows. Say, listen, hey mind, I am going to be doing meditation for the next 20 minutes or whatever time you choose. During this time, I am just telling you, I am not interested in the thoughts relative to the roles that I play in my life. I am interested in pursuing the nature of the actor that I am, not the roles that I play. O mind, please follow my instructions, and I would like to get your cooperation. Do not please bring issues relative to the roles that I enjoy. The worker, the mother, the father, the brother, those are all roles. I just want to pursue looking at myself, who I am as an actor, not the various roles I play. There will be plenty of time for doing that, but for this meditation, these are my resolutions, my promise. This is the sankalpa. And this sankalpa is good to do because it frames the entire 20 minutes in a very specific, definite light. It is not wishy-washy. It has a purpose, and the purpose has been clear, that it is a thought process looking at the actor, not the roles. So this is, I would consider, as the first step. I should also mention that the various steps that we pursue, that we will do today, don't have to be done every time. Like, for example, the sankalpa. You should do it a few times and then it will become automatic. You don't have to spend any time explaining it to your mind. The moment you sit down, that framing will happen automatically. And so on for some of the other steps that we are going to follow. The second step that we will follow is just the posture called asana. You are very familiar with, I'm sure, with the word asana. The asana for this meditation is number one, sitting. Not lying down, not standing, but sitting. The sitting can be on a chair, or it could be on a cross-legged posture on the ground. It does not matter as much. What does matter in the posture is to take a middle ground between stiffness and slumping. So, for instance, the good posture would be sitting in a chair, let us say, with your feet on the ground, your hands clasping lightly together in your lap, and your back either not touching the back of the chair, or if it is, not leaning on it. Your head, your neck, and your back should be in relative alignment, not totally stiff. And we should see the logic of avoiding either of the two extremes, stiffness and slumping. Stiffness doesn't need to be there because you need to be relaxed, and also a good posture. When you say a good posture, what does that mean? A good posture is one that you can maintain throughout the duration of the meditation without having to change. The idea is that done correctly, your body awareness is almost non-existent, very light. So that is the stiffness. Slumping is to be avoided, if possible, because you tend to go to sleep unless you are correctly in the posture. You will find that your head slumps forward when you go to sleep. So those are the two extremes to be avoided. It should be relaxed but alert. I think those are good words to keep in mind. Alert and relaxed. So that is the step number 2. Step number 3 is to be aware of your sense organs that you possess. And there are 5 sense organs, but the one that we will focus on in the preparation is the sense organ of touch. The reason for that is that the sense organ of touch is the only sense organ that you have which is distributed throughout the body. So the third step is to be aware of the sense of touch. Be aware of your feet touching the ground. Be aware of your thighs touching the chair. Be aware of your back perhaps touching the back of the chair. Be aware of your hands in your lap touching your thighs. Be aware of your hands touching each other. Be aware of the 2 sets of eyelashes gently touching each other. In fact, very slowly open your eyes just a little bit to let the light come in and the 2 sets of eyelashes disengaged. Then be aware of, as you close the eye gently, the two sets of eyelashes touching each other again. You can repeat this one more time. Gently open your eyes, just a sliver, not even completely seeing anything. Just see the light and then close. You will feel a wonderful result of even these steps, which is your mind is quiet. By giving your mind something to follow, it becomes quieter. The next step in the preparation for meditation is to observe the state of your body. Our body often harbors some tension. Our Guru Swami Dayanand Ji gave us a very good example. He said, it is a little bit like a child who's trying to get the attention of its mother. The mother is busy and doesn't pay attention to the child that continues to wail. Similarly, there are portions in the body that are relatively stressed, but you have not paid any attention to it. All it takes is to systematically pay attention to the various parts of the body, and you will find just doing that relaxes the parts of the body. So in this step, start from one end of the body let us say the very top of the body, and just go down all of it, pausing to pay special attention to those parts of the body that are obviously under some strain. So, for instance, as you start from the very top of the head, the first thing you will encounter are your eyes. Stay with it and pay attention. Mentally ask it to relax. Once again, we are not trying for absolute relaxation, but relative relaxation. Going down to the neck area, notorious for storing tension. The neck, the front, the back, the shoulders. You're like an inspector or a masseuse. Just paying attention to various parts of the body that typically harbor tension. Move to the stomach. You can employ some techniques to help the parts of the body relax. One technique is to actually squeeze it even more tensely and then release it. Another technique is to relax with the outgoing breath. You synchronize it with that. With each outgoing breath, you let it sag. So you take this tour of the body from one end to the other, just taking stock and pausing to express your sympathies. And as you do, you find that the relaxation comes. in the interest of time, we will just take one more step in this preparation. And we will do the rest of the steps some other time. This is the step of observing your breath. It is not the full pranayama that you may be already familiar with. But this is just a simple observation of the breathing. Be aware that your breathing apparatus is functioning without any help from you. This is the best way to appreciate Ishvara, God, how your life is facilitated by giving you the life-giving oxygen and giving you the mechanism to take the oxygen in, circulate it throughout the body, and expel the carbon dioxide without any help from you. All you should do and can do is to deeply breathe and breathe rhythmically, making sure that the inhalation and the exhalation are balanced. So we will stop the preparation at this point. You can practice these simple steps, and we will complete it some other time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, we can begin the class. Let us see, how long did it take? A little longer than I thought. Anyway, good. So let me just chant the first 5 verses and then we will continue on from where we had left off last class. Rupam drishyam lochanam drik Tadrishyam driktumanasam Drishyadhivrittaya sakshi Drigeva natu drishyate Nilapita sthula sukshma Hrasva dirghadi bhedataha Nana vidhani rupani Pashyet lochanamekadha Andhyamandhya patutveshu Netra dharmeshu chaikadha Sankalpayen manahashotra Tvagadau yojyatamidam Kama sankalpa sandehau Shraddha shraddhe dhriti tare Hrir dhir bhir ityevamādīn bhāsayetyekadhāchitihi Nodeti nastameti esha Navriddhim yati nakshayam Swayam vibhatyatha anyani Bhasayet sadhanam vina. So these are the verses. So I might have mentioned this to you. I don't know if I don't remember whether I did or not, but I might have. That the teaching of the truth about ourselves, really there are three things that we need to investigate. One is the truth about ourselves as a person, as an individual. Who am I? What am I doing? What is my future? All those kind of things. And the other one is the world around me. What's the nature of it? How do I relate to it? How best to relate to it? And the third thing is, so this is what is called Jagat in Sanskritam. So Jagat is an interesting word. All words in Sanskrit are very carefully constructed. There is no random. There is a thing called Rudhi Artha. Rudhi Artha means just a popular meaning. Like, for example, the word Rama. Rama has both etymological meaning as well as Rudhi meaning. Rudhi meaning is that the word Rama means that people think of it as Lord Rama from historical perspective, which is okay. But the word Rama also means Ramante iti Rama, the one where you enjoy the. In fact, what it is said is that whenever you feel joyful, that is really Rama. Why? Because Ram, not the R-U-M in the spirits, but the Ram means to enjoy, to be pleased. And so the one who gives you that feeling is Rama. So Sanskrit has all the right meaning of all of the words and so on. So here in the Sanskritam it is said that every word has to be carefully looked at in terms of the meaning of it. So here we will examine all those meanings in terms of what they mean. The world is called Jagat. This is the meaning of the word, the world that's the second factor that we are interested in. Why it is called Jagat is important. So they say, Jayate Gacchati iti Jagat. So it has three letters. Ja, Ga, Ta and Takara. So Jagat. So Jayate means the one which is born. And gacchati means one which is gone, born and gone, born and gone. This is the nature of the world. And so the nature of the world is that it is continuously changing. At no point it remains the same. So the second question we have is, how do I relate to the Jagat? The third question we have is, how do I relate to the creator of both of us, God? And so this is the fundamental aspect of our life. All of us, knowingly or unknowingly, are concerned with these three factors. This being the case, this is what I wanted to bring up, the more reason for doing that, is Vedanta takes two different approaches towards the understanding of these three factors, which is the individual, the world, and God. Two different approaches to it. And one approach is to examine God. This is what's called theology. Theo being God, theology means the very science of God. Who is? Where is He? By the way, the gender of he and she, I will answer later in the question answer. One of the students had asked me, why is God a male gender in the Vedantic description? So we will tackle that towards the end. But for now, theology means the science of God. And the other part, so one way is to look into that. The other one is to look at yourself and what paraphernalia you have and examine it and analyze it. These are the two approaches. So this is like two different ways of drawing a circle. You can either start from here and go to the right side, or you can go for the left-hand side, but they all meet together. And I think I may have mentioned this to you, it just comes back to me. So Drg Drsya Viveka takes the second approach, which means that it says, leave aside God for later. You just look upon yourself. And it turns out that we will complete the circles before we end, but don't worry about it at this point in time. So now we will take up where we left last time. So if you recall, just as a revision, that the study of my life should revolve around three aspects of reality. One is called Satyam, the other one is called Asatyam, and the third one is called Mithya. So the Satyam means one which is never untrue, under any circumstance, either through time or through space or through any other factors. No possibility of never being, of it being not there, is the definition of Satyam. Let's start with a theoretical definition of Satyam. Means truth. Truth means not conditional truth, unconditional truth. Then the other one is Asatyam, where it is just the opposite, never true, under any circumstances. But then we should say that there is a third one where there is a semblance of reality, but it isn't. It looks like it is there, but it isn't, which is called Mithya. Okay? So now, as we saw, I'm just revising, as we examine ourselves, let us look at what my estimation of myself is. How do I evaluate myself? Do I evaluate myself as We can forget about asatyam. Because I am here doesn't mean that you cannot say that I am not here. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So that we can remove. So now the question is, which ones am I? Am I satyam or am I mithya? So there we say that we have to define mithya. So mithya is defined as something which is changing. There are other definitions that we will bring in, that it is not independent, it is dependent. One which is changing means that one has a beginning and an end. At one time it was not there, and at another time it won't be there. It appears to be there right now. That is the definition of mithya. And why is it different from satyam? Because the satyam should be there at all times. You cannot say when it began. Because if you say it began, that means before it began it was not there. So it violates the very definition of satyam. You cannot do that. So the question is, in my evaluation, where am I? So the first verse says, let us analyze who you are. Okay? So then it says, all right, let us look at the process by which you conduct your life. Let's look at that. So it says, look at your eyes. Your eyes are a mechanism where it is able to see different forms and to distinguish them. Your eyes can open and say, that is red in color. This one is black in color. This one is a table. This one is a chair. That's a wall. Of course, the words are not there. See, the words are not there. So, for example, a baby, when it is born, the language has not yet been assigned to the mind of the baby. So the baby also looks at tables and chairs and carpets and black and red and so on, but doesn't assign words to it yet. That comes much later. Then the mother and father has to say, look baby, this is a book. And the baby says, what? Book. Say it, book. And the baby is not able to say it. Anyway, it comes something in the mind. This is called a book. Then slowly, the baby is able to see that associated. Whenever you say a book, then it visualizes this is what a book is. This is how a new language is learned, and this is how the cognition takes place. By the way, this is a very important thing. When we study deeper into Vedanta, this is exactly what needs to happen. Vedanta has a language. And so, in fact, you can say the word mithya is part of the technical language of Vedanta. You see, this is exactly how it is. Just like the mother and father will say, baby, this is a book. Because, you have to assign something so that you can quickly identify it. Our world is complex. If you don't assign the word book to it, then what will happen? You'll have to say to the older person, that thing that kind of has some pages to it, bring that. And you have to spend a lot of time describing it. Instead, it is very nice for us to say book. There's something that looks like this, call it a book. By the way, that reminds me, let me interrupt myself. I I hope that with the exception of 2 or 3 people to whom I had to resend the book because I had not sent it originally, I think most all of you have gotten it. I think there is a gentleman in Canada because of the customs, maybe some special time. I have not heard back from him yet, but I believe everybody else has gotten it. So you should really have this book that I keep talking about. And also, while I'm on that subject, I should also say, my suggestion to you will be not to read the portions about the book that I am talking about until I have talked about it. Here's my suggestion. You're all adults, you can do anything you want to. Some of you are anxious, you want to read the book without further classes, which is okay. The issue is this: sometimes if you read the book and you're listening to me, you'll say, but I thought the book says this. Is he covering that part or not? You're not really listening to me as intently as you should. So my suggestion would be to wait until a topic has been covered, and then you can consolidate that by going into more details in the book, because these classes won't go into the same detail as the book has. Anyway, so going back to the way the language is learned. Oh yeah, so what I wanted to say was, what will happen is that the understanding of the Vedantic vision will be very much like learning a new language. Just like a baby has to learn a new language, you have to look at things in a different way, and the words have to be used, the language has to be communicated, and the vision has to be associated with the language. All that will happen. And so it is not like all of a sudden you just see that I am a Satyam. And so it slowly occurs. And only when the old language is replaced by the new language, you will see the vision. So Maheshananji, one of the wonderful teachers that I follow, gave this example. He said, and I think I mentioned this to one of the students who had asked me recently, that you're born with, let's say, Hindi speaking. I'm Hindi speaking, and my counting is in Hindi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then when I started to learn in English, I started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In the beginning, my natural count will be the old count. But then gradually, as you begin to see the new count, now I don't remember the Hindi count as much because I'm only used to the English count in living in the US. Same thing will happen in Vedanta, because Vedanta says what you take to be a limited person is old language. You have to learn to see yourself as an unlimited person. This is the new language. And it doesn't come overnight. You'll say, what? I don't understand. How can I be unlimited? It will happen. But it will take a while for the new language to come into being. Anyway, so as we self-evaluate ourselves, the question is, am I Satyam or not? And the principles of Satyam and non-Satyam, Mithya and Satyam, are shown in the conduct of your eyes around the things that you see. So here's what the verse says. The verse says, listen, your eye has to be a singular entity in order to correctly differentiate different things. The eye itself cannot change. You see? So for example, supposing you see a person here and that person is now gone. If it's a different person who is seeing the person gone, it won't work. The same person has to see that another person has come, another person has gone. So the seer has to be singular. The seen can be multiple. So this is exactly what happens in the eye. The eye is a singular entity, not a person. I won't use the word person. A singular entity in order to make sense of the various things around it. Okay? So the eye is the seer and all the forms are seen. So this is what is meant by Rupam Drishyam. Drishyam means that they are all seen. They are objects. They are dependent on the seer, which is lochanam, which is the eye, which is the sense of seeing, is lochanam. But now something funny happens. What happens is that the eye is not only the seer forever, it itself becomes the seen. You see that? This is an interesting thing. The eye as a seer is independent. The seen are dependent. Because the eye, for example, can just close itself and say, I don't want to see. Or it can open the eyes and say, I want to see. I want to see left. I want to see right. I want to see up. Independent. The things that are seen are not independent. They are waiting for the seer to identify them. They cannot simply express themselves without the seer. The seer is important. It's independent. Whereas all the objects are dependent. So you see the difference between them. Seer has a much higher value because it is independent, and as a singular entity it can do a survey of all the dependent things, where the dependent things cannot do that. They are all just sitting there waiting for the seer to see. So in that sense, the seer is a much more subtle, much more powerful thing than the seen. Now something funny happens. The eye doesn't always remain as the seer, it also becomes the seen. That means it falls down in its qualifications. How does it fall down? Because its singularity is lost. Its singularity as a seer is lost because it itself becomes a seen. It becomes an object like other seen objects. This is number one. The second thing, perhaps even more important than that, I'm not sure which one is more important, they are all related, is that the eye changes. You see, if the eye was always a seer, then it has a chance of being Satyam. But it violates the definition of Satyam right away because it itself becomes a seen. So because it is not just a seer, it also becomes seen, it has to be called what? Mithya. And how is it become seen? Because, so now what will happen is that the first verse simply gives you the overall picture. The second, third, fourth and fifth verses that are secondary verses explain the meaning of the first verse. So that's how it will happen. Okay? So, in the second verse, which we will study next time, is that the I will become, the third verse actually, the I will become is seen because it is seen to be not functioning the same always. Andya mandya patutveshu. Andya means that you can either completely lose your sight, or mandya means you see it but not very clearly. Or patutveshu means that you see it very clearly. 2020. So those are qualities of a seen, not the qualities of a seer. As a seer you are singular. As a seen you are multiple. So obviously it means that it is really not Satyam. It is Mithya. Okay, then perhaps the mind, because who cognizes the eye not to be sharp? The mind cognizes. The mind says this is not seeing clearly. So then that means that the mind must be the seer. I has already abdicated its role as a seer because it has become seen. The mind is the seer. Perhaps the mind is the one which is the seer. And indeed, really speaking, the mind is closest to Satyam because it is aware. And in fact, what it has been described as is that the mind is the super sense organ that integrates all of the sense organs and makes sense out of it. So for instance, if the eye says, this is a nice fruit, I love it. Eyes say that, eyes report it. Eyes report that there is a fruit here. The niceness of the fruit comes from the mind. The mind says, okay, thank you, that was a nice apple that I'm seeing. The sense of touch says, this is not an eatable apple, gentlemen, ladies. So the eye says, why not? It's an apple. And the mind says, yeah, it looks like it's an apple. The touch says, no, touch it. You touch it and it's wooden. I should actually bring it. My wife has these, where is it? No, it's in the other room. She has all these really nice looking fruits in a basket. And they are so good looking that honestly, if you just give it to a party, they will all eat it. And then they'll break their teeth because they're all made out of stone. Actually, they're so heavy. And so, really speaking, the mind has to depend upon the various sense organs. Now the mind is, that means, what I was saying was that the mind is a very sensible thing. It has to make the decisions. So it will tell the eye that you fooled me. That is not a real fruit. The eye says, I don't know. It look real to me. Then the other sense organs say, no, this is not real. This is not real. The mind is the absolute reality. maybe it is not. Why? Because the mind, which seems to be the overall seer, itself becomes the seen. How is it is the seen? Because you can see the mind is a happy mind. Mind at some times is unhappy. Mind at times is fearful, doubtful, sure, unsure. There are so many states of the mind, we cannot even believe it. So it is also seen. Then comes the shock of it all. Who sees the mind? The conscious entity sees the mind. So therefore, the conscious entity, the consciousness, must be like the other ones. The I was a seer one time, becomes seen. The mind was a seer one time, becomes seen. So I also am seeing, but I can also be seen? No. I can never be seen. I can only be the seer. This has enormous implications. All of a sudden, I go into a different realm altogether. Up to now, all the realms were similar. The ears, the eyes, the sense organs, the mind, they're all similar. Why are they similar? Because they have this dual role. Sometimes they're the seer, sometimes they're the seen. But now, I become just the seer, never the seen. This means I have a good chance of being Satyam. Good chance. I am a candidate. This is what is called a candidate. The other candidates have been rejected. You see, they have been rejected because they all raise their hand and says, maybe I'm Satyam. Now we have to examine the filter. The filter is the Satyam should always be Satyam. And the I is not always the Satyam, is not always the seer. Therefore it is not Satyam. The mind is not always the seer. Therefore not Satyam. Sakshi, the Chetana, the conscious entity, it might be Satyam. Not sure yet. Might be the Satyam. In fact, the answer is it is. And how that it is, we will look at it in the next class. So this is a big jump from Mithya to Satyam, and this is where I have to see, and this is our own personal experience. I'm not telling you something about God being different or something. This means that the individual's analysis of itself. This is why I said that in the very beginning. I had made the statement that people will enjoy this because you can relate to it from the very first verse itself. And so, having introduced it very briefly, we will now go into the details of it in the next class. So with that, I took some extra time because of the meditation. I hope that's okay with you. And what I will do now, after having prayer, is to answer Anshari's question about the maleness of Ishvara. And if there is any other questions that you have, then I would like to answer that as well. Okay, so I'll complete the class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, so so the question Anshari had asked was that Vedanta often refers to Ishvara as a he. What is the reason for it? What is he a male? Is God a male? And if so, how? So, good question. So the way it is done is, the way it is explained and the way the truth is given is that, and some of it will really be clearer as when we proceed more deeply into the subject matter. It may not be a complete answer yet, but I'll give it anyway. Each one of us has two aspects to us. So one is a person and the other one is a personality, as a way to explain it. There is a person and then there is a personality. So together, this is what constitutes any one person. Person and the personality. Okay? So this is one thing. The second thing is that the personality is something changeable, but the person remains the same. This is the truth about what individuals are, and the same thing is true for God as well. So now, as long as you have both a dual role, there is a possibility of a gender. When there is only one person there, no personality, just the person itself, then that person should lose its gender. So this is exactly what is done. So Ishvara, God, which is perceived as both a person as well as a personality, there is a maleness to it and a femaleness to it. And so the femaleness is all the power, the Shakti. The Shakti is a female word, whereas Purusha is a male word in that sense. Now, when the personality is removed and just the person is left, which is Brahman, which is the very essence of Ishvara. We will go into all those words later on. That's why I'm saying that this is a partial answer. Brahman, the gender of that is neither one or the other. It is neuter gender. So really, Brahman is a neuter gender. So really speaking, so I can say that whether you are a woman or a man, you have both aspects in you. You have a Purusha and a personality. You have a person and a personality. So there is maleness in all women and femaleness in all women. And there is maleness in all men and femaleness in all women, or all men. And so the Shakti, the power is female and the content of that is male. This is the gender. But when only one remains, which is the very essence of it, it is neuter gender, called Brahman, Atma, neuter. Now, what so happens is then language comes into the picture. So then the question is, when we described Ishvara, which is God, not the Brahman, then we have to describe it in some words. So we don't use the word it. That's not proper, because it, the word it, is only appropriate for inert objects. God is not an inert object. God is a conscious entity. So for conscious entity, you cannot use it. For there, you'll have to say either he or she. And language generally will not say he /she, she. Sometimes I write books also. In fact, I'm writing one on Swami Maheshananji's translation of this book that I taught about a month or so ago. And I have the same issue. I will say when the individual is doing this, then he should be doing this. And so sometimes I use say he /she. And so sometimes you say, it's obvious. So let's just, instead of just saying she, I just use he. So the language is a separate thing altogether, but we are looking at the content of Ishvara. This is how it is, that as long as there is a duality, there is both the genders, and as long as there is non-duality, there is no gender. In fact, it is called Ardhanari Ishvaraha. In our mythology also, we show Ishvara as both having male features as well as female features. You're wearing an earring on one earring on one side of the face, and you're wearing a different kind of jewelry on the other side of the face. It's called Ardhanari Ishvara. So this is how Vedanta looks at it. So anyway, that's some answer for you, but I think as you understand the subject matter, you will get a little better feeling for that. Okay, let's see if there is some other questions. I know we are getting over time. No, I couldn't find it there. Let me go to another. YouTube. What? Oh, Drg Drsya Viveka. Got it. Maithili says, no, let me start from the beginning. Well, Maithili Ramakrishna says, I always meditate with Chin Mudra. Is it right, or should I clasp my fingers and do it? Please clarify. So, Maithili, no, you can continue using Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra is this. You can certainly do that if you want to do that. But I think that I don't know whether you're doing it with the hands, kind of up, holding up like this, or you're using Chin Mudra in your lap. If you use it, I would imagine that it might be easier to put the hands into the lap, and whether you clasp it or you're doing it as Chin Mudra doesn't matter that much. I know Swami Tattvavidananda also prefers the clasping. Swami Dayananda always used to say clasping, and that's what I've sort of grown with. But you can use Chin Mudra. Chin Mudra is this posture right here. So you can just use that as in your hand. Yeah, that's perfectly okay. Whatever you're comfortable with. There's nothing sacrosanct about one or the other. Any other questions? I'm happy that Anshari, who asked that question, is here. That's good. Don't see any other questions. So with that, we will close this class and we will see you next week, hopefully. Okay. Om.